podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation. Welcome back to PTBN's NBA Team podcast. It's been a little bit of a while, but we're back to try to catch up on a lot of the summer goings on in the trade market and the free agency market, and even dabble a little bit of recapping the draft. Even though we did a little bit of that previewing before we went away on our sabbatical, but I'm glad to be back. I am Andrew Riche. I almost forgot my name. I'm joined by Mr. Adam Murray. Do you remember your name, Adam Murray? It's been so long.
I mean, it's been so long. You haven't done the intros for all of them. You know our NBA draft preview that came out after the draft, and
yes. Well, we got a lot to do.
Do we? Let's just.
We do. Well, let's hit the big stuff. Let's do the stuff that you can put on like a preview set, or like a synopsis. LeBron James is an LA Laker. Kawhi Leonard is somehow a Toronto Raptor. Paul George is somehow anywhere but Oklahoma City, and Carmelo Anthony is basically damaged goods. Officially damaged goods.
But let's just skip past all of that. Does any of this matter? Since the Golden State Warriors signed Boogie Cousins, does any of these moves matter?
Okay, well, that was a fun podcast. We'll be back next week. No. Here's the thing. With DeMarcus Cousins, obviously the whole narrative behind that was that he had the torn Achilles tendon, and that depreciated his value to the point where Boogie was basically brainwashed by either Draymond Green or some other people to just take a flyer on next season, the 2018-19 season, and sign with the Warriors on a 1 year. What was it? $8 million? Was it $4.5?
$5 million. It's something really small.
It was very low ball. So he basically decided, well, if the Pelicans and other teams are going to play hardball with me on my salary, where they're going to try to get me from the supermax to down to 18 or 16 million, I'll just go play for a championship caliber team for nothing. And that's basically what he did.
You get him. You get Jonas Jerebko.
Mm-hmm.
You lose crazy man JaVale McGee. You lose crazy man Nick Young. David West didn't do anything. You lose Zaza Pachulia.
You bring back Kevon Looney too.
You bring back Kevon Looney, and then the latest. All the main players are gone, and now they says they're interested in Jamal Crawford.
Okay.
So it's why even bother having anything else if you're just going to build a super team?
Well, maybe the faint hope that DeMarcus Cousins, being a Hall of Fame level locker room killer, might be able to break up the harmony. Is it possible? They already were leading the league in technical fouls and ejections. Now with Boogie, they're all-time complainers.
It's great, as far as the fact that the league, everybody has just turned on them now, and nobody likes them. That's all fun and all, but it's just, oh good, they signed Cousins, so what does it matter who else did what?
Well, let me ask you this, because the Cousins signing happened about a day after the LeBron signing occurred. When LeBron, because I know you want to try to tread over it, but get to the smaller stuff, but we got to hit on LeBron James. When he signed with the Lakers, there was obviously more moves left to be made, like Rajon Rondo going there and bringing back Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and bringing in JaVale McGee. You can make your own assessment of that. How did you feel about that after the Lakers signed him? You thought, oh, what a sea change here with the East, and also with LeBron going to the Lakers, they can develop a team long enough to when the Warriors start to shed some of their talent due to their luxury tax, that this might be the beginning of the end for the Warriors. And then your mind changed when the Boogie signing happened, or what was your mindset when all that occurred?
Well, with LeBron signing, it was, who else are you going to get? Because I didn't report of Paul George re-signing come out fairly quick.
Yeah, LeBron's contract was no discount. He got 4 for $154.
Yeah, he got his money.
Yes.
And then it was okay, you're not getting PG-13, you're not getting Cousins, so why should we care that you went there? And then you look at the people they did pick up. You get Michael Beasley. We mentioned JaVale McGee. Rondo.
You bring back KCP, but for less.
Yeah, he took a big discount. Lance Stevenson is there. So they just got, you change this team to zero spacing and all head cases. All we need is Nick Young to return, and we have just a full-out loony bin.
It's full-on confidence that, LeBron can figure it out kind of thing. Which is, hey, the Cleveland Cavaliers banked on that for about 4 years, and it worked out really great for them. So I'm not sure about that situation anymore. We'll hit on them a little bit
and then
later.
Also, all you have is really Zubac is their only real center, I think.
Mo Wagner, who they drafted.
He's a stretch 5, and JaVale McGee is going to play 10 minutes. So they're like, well, we're going to play LeBron at the 5. Okay, so you're going to have him go against Boogie Cousins. You're going to have him guarding Gobert. You're going to have him taking on centers. Yeah, that's a good way to keep him healthy and in shape. So all these one-year signings are just complete mystery.
And the thing with LeBron's team since he joined Miami is that they've all basically been built off of, we'll have these big-time long-term star player contracts at the top of the food chain, and then we can hit on these smaller one-year deals and some veteran discounts who want to try to chase a title and do it that way. The Warriors actually kind of in a sneaky way have sort of done the same thing over the last 2 years since they signed Durant. But the thing with this one is that this doesn't feel like, we're going to rent out a couple of these other veterans and bring in some wings and try to win a championship. This one's kind of weird because they already had some ready-made talent there, like Kyle Kuzma, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram. None of them got moved, even though there were rumors about a potential Kawhi Leonard trade, especially when LeBron signed, thinking, they're going to sneak in and try to get Kawhi and build a super team. This one looks like they might actually wait it out another year. And then you'll see the fruition of the super team.
If that's something you want to do with a 33-year-old LeBron, and you're just defying age, and you're just let's just punt for a year. Very, very strange indeed. You had mentioned Oklahoma City, as in you think they did really well.
I thought they got better, and I'm gonna be honest. I've kind of turned on Russell Westbrook. I don't really enjoy watching him play too much. I understand how captivating he is to watch, but it's sort of the Westworld type of scenario. It's like if you're all in on him, you love watching the Thunder. If you can't stand how he plays, it's like the worst thing. It's sort of like the same trap that everybody fell into with Allen Iverson when he was with Philadelphia. Same exact thing. With this though, you unload Melo. You were already a pretty good defensive team, and that was your Achilles heel on defense, and now you let him go. You bring back Paul George, of course. And by re-signing him, I would assume that they might play Russ off the ball a little more, let George be a little bit more of a spearhead of the offense. Then they made some additions, like in the three-way deal where they unloaded Melo's contract. They took on Dennis Schroeder. There's a lot of gauging about Dennis Schroeder's value. Some people think he's not a starter. Some people think he's a really good backup. I think he's a solid backup.
Well, if you're not a starter, then you must be a really good backup.
Mm-hmm. But albeit an overpaid backup.
Yeah, he's horribly overpaid, and he hadn't developed the way Atlanta did. And they also had the attitude problem and then legal issues. But they picked up him. You got Timothy Luwawu, who Philly gave up on already. Abdul Nader they picked up from Boston. They signed Nerlens Noel on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, that's a rental. That is a rental through and through right there.
But they just have, it's one of those things where all these teams now, it's just complete attrition and then luxury tax. Like, well, you have to pick up these 1-year people and.
The reason why I said that about the Thunder is that I feel like the inherent problems that they have that they can't fix, like Westbrook's usage and the fact that they're like a low assist team, like that stuff is inherently cannot be fixed. But some of the smaller things that they were able to fix by adding and subtracting certain players like Melo and bringing in some more ball handlers, they were able to help themselves out by doing that. So I feel like out of the West, obviously the Lakers got better. You might have some people come back and say, oh, well, no, the Lakers are probably going to be a 30-win team with LeBron. I think that's silly. I think they can be a 50-win team with LeBron.
They're not going to be a 50-win team.
I have money on the line on this. So that they have to win 50 games.
Yeah, they're not going to win 50 games, so I would gladly take that bet.
But they got better still, no matter what. I mean, they were what, a 35-win team, I want to say, last year.
Yeah, they're going to be better, but it's just who from the West has gone down?
Who's gone down? Well, obviously San Antonio.
Okay, San Antonio Spurs.
The Rockets got slightly worse, in my opinion.
Oh, well, let's start with the Spurs. Okay, you have the big, shocking Kawhi for DeRozan trade. Okay.
How shocking was it? It's a Stephon Marbury, Jason Kidd type of thing. It's star for star. It happened.
It's star for star, and it's just, as I was saying to people at my work, it was just, well, this is what happens when you have an old man who's running your front office. Well, we don't want draft picks. We need somebody who's going to continue. Okay, so you want the Milwaukee Bucks if you want to be the 6 and 7 seed every year? Okay, have at it. LaMarcus Aldridge is getting older. Ginobili's done. Parker's gone, and they re-signed Rudy Gay, I think, on a deal.
They re-signed him.
Yeah, you get Marco Bellinelli back.
Yeah, he went away, and now he's back in the fold. And they've also re-signed Davis Bertans.
Yeah, Davis Bertans. Oh, they still have old man Pau Gasol, who doesn't have much left. You picked up Jakob Poeltl, and it's just like, well, your team, you're not going to be a top 4 seed next year.
You mentioned Danny Green also, huh?
Danny Green.
Because I'll tell you this. Well, I'll tell you why you didn't. Because nobody mentioned Danny Green last year because he barely did anything.
It was, with him. We remember like he's like, well, I signed 4 years, 40. That's what I'm worth, and it's like, well, that's basically what you played out to. And then the Kyle Anderson. We don't want him, but we're going to re-sign Davis Bertans for $2 million less.
You want to hear my hot take? In terms of if you want to really get into the weeds of it, if you actually look at previous season contribution, the biggest loss the Spurs suffered was actually losing Kyle Anderson.
And that's what, I was
because Kawhi Leonard only played in 9 games.
Yeah, so. I was a champion of Bertans before you even knew who he was, and then it's just like, well, why $2 million is a big drop off to, okay, hopefully he's gonna do something, but I think they took a step backwards, and then okay, you mentioned Houston, so let's go move over there.
Yeah, now Chris Paul's re-signing. First of all, superstar Hall of Fame level player, lead point guard, leader of your team. I understand all that. I know some people will pick on him for the very late injury in the conference finals that left him out and basically cost the Rockets the chance to go to the finals. It happens. But unfortunately, it happens to Paul like every single year. But it's just you need a talent like that on your team in order to get to where you're at. I don't know the particulars. I think it's like, 5 years, 144?
It's insanely high.
And remember, they waived that past 36 rule to past 38 so that he would be eligible for that kind of salary instead of having to take the veterans exemption, past 36. It used to be at age 36 when you reach a certain age, you cannot take max value. It would be protected by the collective bargaining agreement so you don't take on bad contracts. Well, now they push that to the age 38 because players are seemingly staying at a pretty good they're I guess the idea is that at advanced ages, superstar players are maintaining their value. So and also it helps pay those players at advanced ages. Well, Chris Paul, being one of the league guys of the Players Union, kind of protected himself a little bit, along with LeBron.
Oh yeah, and then of course in that way their contracts will be so horribly bad in 4 years.
Well, LeBron, no. I think LeBron will be great, and he'll be like Kareem. I think he'll be great until it's all over. With Chris Paul, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, Chris Paul's already falling apart. But Houston, what they basically did is, okay, they finally got Melo a year later, but they gutted their small forward position for him.
Yeah, Luke Mbamute went back to the Clippers.
Trevor Ariza, big question mark signing with Phoenix. And all you replace him, okay, you got James Ennis, and then Michael Carter Williams, I think, signed a veteran minimum deal.
Yeah, they brought back Gerald Green, decent 3-point shooter / swingman. They're going to get Carmelo Anthony on a borrowed deal after he's bought out by the Hawks.
If one of those starters get injured, they're so done. This team is very not deep now.
Oh, I mean, they've lost the depth that sort of helped them, in the playoffs. Now, talent-wise, yeah, they can definitely make it to the finals. I mean, James Harden just won the MVP rightfully, and he's going to be right there in the thick of it again. They bring back Clint Capella, 5 years, $90 million. It was a deserved price, I guess, but that now you're in tax hell. You're in tax hell for about 3 years.
Oh, they've basically said this is our window. We have 2 years. We are just going to throw everything into this fire, and who cares?
I've heard this one before. I've heard this one already. Do you think the window is closed?
They have this up and coming year because that's about Carmelo has. If he's willing to accept his role, they have another year or two because he's not bad. He's just not that 36-minute player. 25 points, 20 shot guy anymore.
And here's the thing about Daryl Morey that makes him really, really smart, but also sometimes is a little too smart for his own good. The summer 2016, which has become like infamous for the spending spree that's cost a lot of teams their flexibility because they overspent with the cap spike. The Rockets got Eric Gordon, which was actually wound up being a good move. But they also signed Ryan Anderson, which turned out to be a god-awful move.
Well, let's just all shoot threes. Well, he can't do anything else but shoot threes. Oh, well, we'll still pay him $20 million. Maybe not the smartest thing. And also, Houston, I think, is relying on too much on DeAnthony Melton to be like their new savior.
Yeah, and the backup point guard position. And they didn't have too many options before that. Remember, they had like Bobby Brown, Briante Weber. Who was I'm forgetting already. Who backed up Chris Paul? Was it Eric Gordon doing the ball handling after Paul's injury in the conference finals? I'm kind of skipping a little bit. I'm trying to remember who did a little bit of the ball handling in the tail end of that series.
Oh, James Harden never passed it, so it was
it was either
pass to Harden who would pass. He was like Mr. Perfect. He would just throw the ball up to himself and.
I remember one time they got so desperate they had to have P.J. Tucker kind of push it up a little bit. And Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson was the other one I was remembering, where they had to have him play point guard.
Yep. So
Melton was necessary.
Houston's moves are a lot of I think we could agree it's either a love him or hate him, but they've committed to going all in.
Yeah. Now, listen, we could just kind of switch over to the East a little bit because even though LeBron joining the Lakers – in terms of the Warriors' dominance and also how talented the Houston Rockets still are and holding on, that I don't know if that's going to make that much of an impact unless, the Lakers are able to pull off some moves in the future during midseason trades or whatnot that might improve them. But in the East, LeBron's exit it's gargantuan.
Okay, so let me change. Let me give you a change up here.
Okay.
Who had the worst offseason? Was it Atlanta? Was it Charlotte? Or was it Chicago?
Can you put Cleveland in the mix?
You think Cleveland is the worst of all of them?
Well, they're one of the worst because that Kevin Love extension that they just basically did as a desperation move to keep talent there, it just reeked of bad.
It reeked of bad, but, Colin Sexton's a solid pick. I'm not as high on him as everybody else seems to be, but it was a need. So
I get you.
And Larry Nance isn't terrible, and they could have just lost LeBron for nothing. So the fact that you get overpriced Jordan Clarkson, you get Larry Nance, okay, that's better than having nothing.
The answer to that question depends on how you're viewing the impact. If you're looking at it just short term for this upcoming season and how that sort of affects your cap and things like that, Atlanta had the worst offseason. You took on Carmelo's bad contract. There was another bad contract that they took on and just bought out. Can you remind me of which one it was?
They bought out?
Was it Dwight? No, Dwight was bought out by the Brooklyn Nets.
Brooklyn Nets bought him out. They traded for Jeremy Lin instead of the Kenneth Faried trade. They said no, we want Jeremy Lin, and we'll
who's played 10 games in 2 years.
Yeah, and we'll give you an exemption for it, and
they did re-sign Dwayne Dedman, which shocked everybody. But and then it also depends on what you think of Trae Young.
Well, it's going to be based upon what Luka Doncic does. So if he's completely awful, that's the only way they could save grace. Is they got nothing. They didn't get any haul. They just got a protected first round pick, and that's it.
You see, that's the thing about those draft day trades that sort of last is that when the players are attached and there's this like long separation of like when the pathway of the careers really starts to create a divide, it's almost impossible to miss on. Like, we're not there yet, obviously, with Dennis Smith Jr. and Frank Ntilikina, that wasn't even a trade. That was more of the mythos that you had the opportunity to take this player and you passed on him. One example of a trade was O.J. Mayo and Kevin Love. And people still talk about that to this day. Oh man, Minnesota really their Memphis screwed it up by not taking Kevin Love.
Well, look at it now. It's Fultz and Tatum.
That's another good example. And now the new one is Trae Young and Luka Doncic.
Yeah, and then just okay, they got Melo. They didn't get anything. All they did was give Dennis Schroeder away.
Yes.
Which they must have really hated him. Just be like, we'll give you away for nothing.
Well, he had a lot of clashes with Budenholzer. Now, Budenholzer's gone, but the new one's Lloyd Pierce. But maybe he just didn't want a head case,
I don't know, but the fact that they really gave him away for nothing, and the people that they, you get Alex Len, Jeremy Lin, Vince Carter, I guess you say, in the old grandma, oh, bless his heart, he still wants to play. He's willing to play in Atlanta for a year until he gets bought out.
They let my guy Mike Muscala go. Of all the people you let go Mike Muscala, like one of the more valuable players.
Mike Muscala, Malcolm Delaney, I think, just signed in China. He wasn't.
Now, John Collins looked great in Summer League. But we knew that he was sort of a high riser, so that's one of those things where you just hope that when he hits his peak, it's something that can actually boost the value of the franchise.
And it's just like right now, your franchise player is Kent Bazemore because you gave him that huge salary, so it's just like, you got nothing.
You got one more year of the Plumlee commitment, and then it's over.
But there's no building blocks, there's no talent. It's just like, okay, you did that. So Atlanta, I don't think
the other one I thought about when you said that is the Bulls. Like Charlotte, I don't like that team. Period.
Okay, let's just focus on the Bulls first.
Yes,
I would probably give them the worst offseason of the year because I don't know why you'd want to agree to Zach LaVine for $80 million.
Okay, now let's get into the particulars. This was actually originally an offer sheet that he signed from the Sacramento Kings. Now, if the Sacramento Kings actually kept him and got the offer sheet to go through as a guaranteed deal, what would you have said about the Kings?
They overpaid. What are they thinking?
Okay.
But the Kings are their own special case right now. But the Bulls are like, well, it has injury protection in it. But you signed him for $20 million a year. You get your other big signing was Jabari Parker, who you plan on playing at the 3. Who on that team is going to play defense? You traded for Omar Ashik. You got rid of Mirotic, who helped the Pelicans make the playoffs, and you pick up Ashik, and then your big draft pick, Chandler Hutchinson is just. Like where's he gonna play if you have LaVine?
Yeah, and then you have your bigs are a little bit weird. You got Bobby Portis, but then you bring in Wendell Carter Jr., who plays just like Bobby Portis. Yeah. So a little bit of a mess there.
And you bid against yourself for Cristiano Felicio, who's one of the worst contracts. You have Chris Dunn, who showed signs of life. Okay, Markkanen will play.
Well, that's the disappointing thing about Garpax over there in Chicago. That's Garforn and John Paxson, the two-headed monster there, is that you had a little bit of optimism going in. Yeah, they were 27-55, but you had Markkanen, you had Dunn. Despite the Mirotic-Portis fistfight, Portis did show signs of being a decent player. And then you had Zach LaVine come in at late in the year from the ACL. So you're thinking, oh, you got a nice young nucleus. Well, I guess they were desperate to keep the nucleus because they thought LaVine was sort of part of the whole, like the grand scheme of things.
But by signing LaVine, you've now taken your extra dump money away. So it's just, what are you like? What is your plan to not?
It's very David Kahn, Minnesota-ish.
It doesn't. I don't see what they're doing. And then, speaking of teams we don't see what they're doing, you have the Charlotte Hornets, we are so desperate to not pay the tax. We need to.
Well, here's what I was, Adam, this is what I didn't like about what the Hornets did. When they did the Dwight Howard trade away, I actually liked it. Like, I thought, okay, get rid of this guy. Nobody likes him. He only makes himself better. He doesn't make his teammates better. I thought, though, that with Mitch Kupchak coming in, that this was the beginning of a blow-up. And it wasn't. They basically just stood pat because they knew that Marvin Williams and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist are unmovable, and then they knew that with Nicholas Batum at $24+ million, that there's no way you're going to move that contract. So now the only bargaining chip you have is your best player, Kemba Walker, and if you move him, it's like a house of cards.
Begins,
yeah. Exactly, and they decided to hold out on it, or they didn't get a good enough deal for Kemba.
But what they did was let's sign Tony Parker, who can't play anymore.
Yeah, but let me say this about Tony Parker. This is one of those things where the money doesn't lie, and I would have taken that deal too. If the Spurs were going to offer me half as much for 2 years or whatever it was going to be, I'd rather just take the Hornets deal. So I don't blame Tony for that.
Oh, nobody blames Tony. He just took the cash. But what does Charlotte get from any of this? Absolutely nothing. You trade for Bismack Biyombo. And then, okay, so you got rid of Howard, who at least scored. So you got Cody Zeller. You got
Kaminsky.
You got Willie Hernan Gomez.
Mm-hmm.
And so you add Biyombo. This team is just going to have zero spacing, zero shooting, and who did they draft?
They drafted Miles Bridges from Michigan State. And they brought in, and also Devontae Graham, who I believe was injured, so he didn't play at all in the summer league. Bridges looked pretty good when I saw him. He's kind of like, he was out of position all the time in college, so I don't really know what he's going to do in the NBA because he's 6'6". But he's got the kind of game that if he was a power forward and he played at the 4 spot, he could probably be an aggressive scorer.
Well, you can't play at the 3 with Kidd-Gilchrist and Batum.
That's a good point.
Making $20 million on the bench, so it's one of those. Okay, you have your new coach, you have your new GM. What are you doing?
And with James Borrego there, we don't really know how the style is going to be, or if that's going to make too much of a difference. Sometimes it does, but with the Hornets, I'm just kind of down on them in general. Whereas with the Bulls, I didn't like the Zach LaVine matching at all. Cleveland to me was just like, I don't know how you recover from that. This is truly the pit of despair. The thing about Cleveland too is that you can't unload George Hill, you can't unload J.R. Smith. The difference was when LeBron left Cleveland in 2010, he was surrounded by trash. They had like Mo Williams and Delonte West. Like I can understand why the Cavs were bad. The difference here is that they actually have players on their roster in Cleveland who are actually not that bad. And now they have to hold up to the standard of, hey, we need you to be not so bad. And that's going to be difficult for them.
No, because we just mentioned 3 teams who are terrible. So they're out of the basement. They can be competitive enough.
Okay, so you're talking about the bottom. Let's talk about the top of the East. With the Raptors, on paper, you would think, oh, okay, they're taking a shot at it. But the truth is, you're not really. Because number one, it's a mitigated risk because you're bringing in Kawhi Leonard, who you have no guarantee. He did pass his physical when he got to Toronto. So there's that. That's over with. But there's no guarantee he's going to re-sign in Toronto. In fact, the likelihood of him re-signing, given that Paul George did re-sign with Oklahoma City when people thought Oklahoma City didn't have a snowball's chance in hell, with Kawhi, I think the chances are even lower. And then you trade away DeRozan to get Kawhi. DeRozan was probably the best player in the history of the franchise. Would you argue that or go with Vince Carter still?
DeRozan was, but this is one of the things. Okay, Boston is sort of in disarray. Philly is too young, so we have a 1-year window to get to the finals. Because if we don't, we're just going to have an aging Kyle Lowry, DeRozan, who can't get over Philly and Boston.
Yeah, because I think they got 2 more years on that Lowry deal. And listen, that Lowry deal was designed that when they re-signed him last summer, that he was not going to go anywhere because that deal was going to be untradeable. Basically, it meant that Kyle Lowry was finishing his career in Toronto.
Well, that's the smart thing if they gave him a 3-year deal and, nobody else did. So he has, this year and one more year left. But
Yeah.
they're going all in on this. Danny Green, not terrible as a backup.
And they didn't ruin their depth. They still have Anunoby. They still have Siakam. They re-signed Fred VanVleet, which I thought was a smart move. I'm not sure if you agreed with that one. They did have to unload Pirtle as part of the Spurs deal because the Spurs wanted something extra. But, I think Pirtle was expendable in comparison to, like, Anunoby and Valanciunas. I would have rather kept them than tried to hold on to Pirtle.
When it's all said and done, they traded a top 20 player for arguably a top 10 or 12 player. Mm-hmm. So they upgraded.
They did, but does this feel like, they're loading up? They're going to take a stab at a championship. Like, I don't think that's what it feels like.
It's the Cleveland is no longer, we're free from the LeBron curse, so let's just...
Well, that's the thing. Like, when LeBron left Cleveland for Miami, he stayed in the East. When he went back to Cleveland, he stayed in the East. Now he's in LA. He's in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. So now it's wide open. You say disarray with Boston. I would love to be in that kind of disarray.
Disarray, as in you have a bunch of players. You have to add Hayward to the mix. They're going to be good.
Marcus Smart came back.
Really, you signed Marcus Smart to a $13 million deal, I think.
Well, that was clearly part of the fact that they could not get the Kawhi deal done. And that was why you heard no talk from Boston side to Smart's camp, and that's why Smart started coming out in interviews saying, I don't know what Boston wants to do. That was during the Kawhi sweepstakes. Well, once it was over, they immediately came to terms on a deal. So that was clearly the backup plan if Boston couldn't get Kawhi to keep Marcus Smart.
Yep.
But now Kyrie, I'm getting my K's wrong. Kyrie, I'm hearing a little more and more like, he might not stay,
That's so. He's still playing out this year, and they're going to be good. That's why I meant their sort of disarray is they are right at the precipice, but can they do it?
Yeah, well, I think getting Brad Wanamaker is going to get him over the tipping point. But no, if you scan like the rest of the Eastern Conference, Miami, really, it's just kind of the same as last year, just standing pat. Washington,
Miami has no money to do anything, so they just have their mid-level exemption.
We're not going to get into the particulars of luxury tax and cap space this time. We'll save that for some other for a future episode. But like the truth is, like there's some of these teams that are so close to the tax, like Adam mentioned with Charlotte, that like there's really nothing they can do unless they want to go like the Rockets and just go all in. The Washington Wizards were in that wheelhouse. That's why they had to do a swap out for Marcin Gortat to get Austin Rivers. So, and the only thing they were able to do was to get Dwight Howard, but they only got Dwight Howard because he was picked up on a new deal after he was bought out by the Nets. So I don't even know the particulars of the Dwight deal, but I bet it was like for very little money.
I think it's for $5 million, which is what he gave up. With Brooklyn. Yeah, they got him and Jeff Green, so they're going to be a crazy person team.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you this: Jeff Green will be missed in Cleveland. As crazy as that sounds.
So we mentioned Washington has issues with the bench, so all they did was just get high-priced backup Austin Rivers. Yep. And then Jeff Green to sort of anchor their second unit. It's like,
Yeah, like, does that tickle your fancy about Washington? No, not really. Like, I mean, if Wall and Beal and all that they can find some camaraderie and they seem to get into a good flow offensively, then yeah, you might see a turnaround there. Philadelphia, I don't want to call them victims of their own success, but the whole LeBron and Clutch might be talking to them about LeBron going there. I thought that was a giant smokescreen, and I feel like Philadelphia bought into it a little bit too much.
It was, but at the same time, Philly's also a victim of we have too many draft picks. You have all these assets, so they had to dump Timothy Luwawu. Mm-hmm. Rashawn Holmes they had to jettison. And it's just, well, you can't have 5 picks a year.
Then why did they keep Amir Johnson?
Veteran. locker room.
And I mean, Jared Baelish, you had no choice. He expires next year. McConnell. I mean, that was a team option. I mean, that was a no-brainer. He was so valuable for them. Bringing back J.J. Redick, I don't remember the number. He made $20 million last year. It was
I think it's 12 or 13.
It was far less. Yeah, and he's still
added,
yeah.
You added Wilson Chandler, who
he was jettisoned, but you used the word jettison. He was put on a rocket ship by the Nuggets. The moment they brought back Will Barton and they re-signed Nikola Jokic to the Supermax, it was like, okay, now you're like well into the tax if you keep Chandler. So they did everything humanly possible to get rid of him.
Yeah, so they are having to get rid of their young guys. Just flipping over to Denver, and there we refuse to pay the salary cap. Let's get rid of everything. You lose Darrell Arthur, you lose Wilson Chandler, Kenneth Faried, we mentioned, could trade to Brooklyn. Devin Harris is going back to Dallas.
Isaiah Thomas comes in.
You pick up Isaiah Thomas on a veteran minimum deal.
Michael Porter Jr. on basically a borrow. Like it's almost like a flyer. It's like a flyer, like Harry Giles with the Sacramento. It's almost like a flyer. Yeah,
so that's just they're dumping money desperately, and don't forget, they're at the luxury tax, and they didn't even make the playoffs last year. You have Dallas, we mentioned with the Luka Doncic thing. They got
the bottom of that depth chart is they just emptied it out. I do not know how they're going to fill out that roster. That was
Dallas?
Yes. What I'm talking about is like if you look at the bottom part of the roster, like the small potato type of guys,
Seth Curry, Yogi Ferrell, McDermott.
Yeah, well, McDermott's with
Nerlens.
Well, McDermott's. Well, what I'm saying is that they're gone. Majiri they did not bring back because they signed Jordan, which makes sense. Kyle Collinsworth, Jameel Warney, Aaron Harrison, all those small guys. They did bring back Devin Harris. So
they brought back Devin Harris. You drafted Jalen Brunson, who you were high on.
I don't think he was the best player in college basketball when he won the Wooden Award, but I think he's a solid point guard.
But these are all end of the roster people, and then like we said, Yogi Ferrell, he didn't like his deal he got, so he went to Portland. But it's just with Smith and Doncic and these guys weren't going to get minutes anyways. That was the point, was, Seth Curry could still get 25 minutes. Well, that window is slowly coming closed as you have your new core.
Well, I mean, Cuban said he was building for the future, and he rang that true. He did not take a stab at it. DeAndre Jordan is not let's make a run for it type of move. It's just we need a center. They needed everything outside of a small forward because they have Harrison Barnes. So outside of that, they needed everything. So, hey, let's get a center and let's sign him to a $20 million per year deal that's pretty safe because Jordan's one of the best rebounders, if not the best rebounder in the league. And we'll see how it works when we mix them up with our young guys. Mm-hmm. It's actually a kind of a safe deal.
Okay, fair enough. Another cost-cutting team. Portland got, let Ed Davis walk, let Shabazz Napier walk.
How much do you believe the rumors that C.J. McCollum was on the block? I don't believe him at all.
Everybody's on the block.
Yeah, but I mean, realistically, now, if the Spurs called for Kawhi Leonard, I can believe it. But
that's why you sort of floated out there of, you would never thought DeRozan would be on the block. All of a sudden.
Were you surprised that Neil O'Shea was able to negotiate Nurkic and his people into a corner to where he was able to get him back for less? Because here's the thing about RFAs, restricted free agents, is that people thought, they're going to open up offer sheets so that you can sign them immediately, just like a unrestricted free agent, so they don't feel left out of the party. The truth is, they're still getting left out of the party. If you are a restricted free agent, your tagline is, "We'll get back to you later," and that's what happened at every single.
It's because you have players who are better than them now taking 1-year deals, so they're on the market. Before it used to be, those were the best guys, were those 4-year guys who have potential. Okay, we're gonna poach that guy. He's gonna be our building block of the future.
And the truth is, those RFAs that are really, really good, like the Devin Bookers and the Karl Townses of the world, they're gonna be supermax before you can even get close to them.
Okay, speaking of maxing out with Devin Booker, just a complete question mark of what is going on with Phoenix.
When you say that, now, first of all, taking DeAndre Ayton #1 was a no-brainer. I was okay with that. Are you talking about getting Mikal Bridges in a trade?
Getting Mikal Bridges
Okay.
when you have Josh Jackson.
Okay.
And then signing Trevor Ariza to a 1-year, $15 million deal.
Yeah, the reason one makes no sense to me. I didn't understand that. And for Ariza, it's just like Tony Parker. Get your money. You know?
And your starting point guard, it will be a French kid who was the second-round pick.
I'm trying to remember what his name was.
Elia Kobo.
Okay. That's why I didn't remember his name.
Who knows if I don't even know if Brandon Knight will be ready or if he's healthy or even
if he is healthy, would he want to play there? He might just want to take a buyout.
You got Tyler, Ulis is gone, hasn't been signed. Peyton is gone, so all you have no point guard. Your big draft haul of Marquise, Chris, and Dragon Bender has been horrible, and so you draft Josh Jackson.
You did not get back Alec Peters. He went to foreign land. So
yes, he went to foreign land.
Wherever that place is. Which one did he go? Did he go to Siska or which one did he go to?
I thought he went to the Turkish league, but I could be wrong.
But I liked Alec Peters. He had a 36-point game. Why didn't you? I mean, those are the kind of players you want to keep in the fold. That's how Philly got better. They didn't just let Robert Covington go to FC Barcelona. They kept him.
It just doesn't make much sense. And we had mentioned Elfrid Payton got his, the big Hennigan. He's untouchable. Is now to your New Orleans Pelicans.
Well, the Pelicans clearly got worse. I mean, just no question about it. And it's not just like, well, you played great without Boogie anyway, and that's fine. But you lost Rondo. And it's not that you lost regular season Rondo. You lost playoff Rondo.
You lost Rondo, but you got Julius Randle.
Randle is actually going to fit pretty nicely with AD because they can switch between the 4 and the 5 pretty much at any time. And also, having Mirotic back for another year is going to be great.
So, did they really get worse? Because Boogie was out, so that's sort of a wash.
Boogie was so good for them early on that they wouldn't have been in that position to make the playoffs without him. That's my argument.
Rondo, but you drafted Tony Carr, who you were high on. You have Frank Jackson, who...
Frank Jackson's hurt again.
85th surgery.
Yes.
So, you have
They did get Trayvon Blewett out of the summer league, who turned out to be the guy that people missed on in the draft.
Because he tore his ACL, right? Or did he just come back from it in Xavier?
No, that was Edmund Sumner. Trayvon Blewett's fully healthy.
Okay.
Yeah, Sumner's the one who tore his ACL right before he went to the draft and he got drafted by the Pacers.
So I don't think they got terribly worse.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota decided to do nothing. We mentioned.
Well, they're in the similar situation like we were talking about with the cap, and the context of it is that they are so close to the tax, or even slightly over, especially with the Jeff Teague deal. They cannot do anything.
Oh yes. Before we start wrapping this up, I mentioned the Pacers, who are now everyone's team. Where did they come from? They came from nowhere. Now they must be really good. So let's go out and spend money because we can. Where they picked up McDermott, who I still don't see how he did.
Yeah, I don't understand that one. I mean, and also they declined the team option on Lance Stevenson. I mean, I'm not trying to say Lance Stevenson's going to be like super duper valuable for the Lakers, but I would have kept him.
You let him go, and then you get Tyreek Evans.
And you opt in on Thaddeus Young.
So it's...
I felt maybe because they had that team option to decline on Al Jefferson, they thought they had some room to grow.
Oh, and they got Kyle O'Quinn, who was low-key good.
Yeah, dirty player, though. Sometimes you need those. When you scan the East, Detroit Pistons, you got Glenn Robinson the third, and that's all I can really remember them doing. The Clippers did not get any better at all. The Clippers, to me, are the team that Steve Ballmer did not want when he bought them. They're just another team.
But, okay, look at it this way. You drafted Shai
Gilgeous-Alexander.
And then...
Jerome Robinson.
Who, one of them will become a good point guard.
Okay.
Presumably. So, you get out of the Austin Rivers, nepotism fiasco.
Yeah.
So you have that. You get Mbah Moute back, who's a solid defender. You trade for Gortat, which softens the blow of losing Jordan.
A little bit, yeah. Now he's on the last year of his deal.
So they have what's sinking them is the Gallinari deal.
Mm-hmm. And it ain't Lou Williams because that's actually a fair extension. So
they extended him. They re-signed Avery Bradley, who he had nowhere to go. So if you look at this team, it's a decent young team with Bradley, Decker, Jawan Evans, Montrezl Harrell, Tobias, if you still think he's young.
And that triad in the bottom, the young guys of Jawan Evans, Sam Decker, and Sindarius Thornton, one of them is going to wind up being an okay player. At least you hope so.
But this is a team that never had young players. This is a team that never had a bench. It was, we have our 5 starters, we have a 6-man, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it was completely terrible, considering they lost on in 2 years. You lose Chris Paul, you lose DeAndre Jordan, you lose Austin Rivers, who were 3/5 of your starters for most of the year.
Yeah.
When Redick played. They lost Redick last year too. So
yeah,
they've redone their roster.
Yeah, so Lob City's gone. But for Utah, the funny thing is they did have a little bit of money to spend, and they did keep Derek Favors. For a little bit less, but they didn't really make too many changes either. When I'm scanning on theirs, they just they lost Urebko and they bring in Grayson Allen, and they were able to re-up Dante Exum. I hate to say this, but maybe the injuries came back to actually help the Jazz because they got him for lower value. I'm not saying he's going to turn into Steph Curry like when the Warriors re-upped him in 2012.
But we had mentioned, we talked about this, give him a 3-year deal, 2-year deal. It's sort of fair.
Mm-hmm. But that might work out. What I'm saying is that might work out great for him. Maybe Exum makes the jump next year.
Jumping around. It is, I think, going to happen where the Sacramento Kings will put out 5 power forwards on the floor.
That's a strange team. Now listen, Marvin Bagley III, I'm not super duper bipolar on the Bagley's going to be a bust. They really screwed it. They should have gotten Doncic, or they should have tried to trade up to get Ayton kind of thing. I'm not in that camp. I think he's going to be okay. But getting Deontay Davis was interesting. Bringing back Ben McLemore just blew my mind. And then getting Nemanja Bjelica, very good player. He snuck in. If you can sneak into Tom Thibodeau's rotation when you're not a starter, you have to be a good player.
And then
Bjelica's good, but and then not Yogi Ferrell. You said Yogi Ferrell because I heard the rumor he was going to go to the Kings, but he wound up going to the Blazers.
No, he went to the Kings.
Oh, he did go to the Kings. I'm sorry about that. So Yogi's in there.
Yeah, Yogi's in there, and then Bjelica is there. Who they had signed deals with other teams, and then we're just going to go to the Kings. But Bagley, Bjelica, Davis. We could mention Harry Giles because he's from last year. So you just got 4. You've added 4 power forwards to your team
and 3 very short point guards. De'Aaron Fox, Frank Mason Jr., Frank Mason III, and Farrell. I mean that's really strange.
You got Schumpert, and I guess Justin Jackson looked alive in Summer League, so there's hope for him because he's terrible to this point.
Schumpert might be a buyout.
Schumpert will most likely be. Yeah. But for a team that already has Cauley Stein, Labissiere, Costa Koufos, what are you doing adding more power forwards?
In Memphis, I actually kind of like some of their moves as players. Their coaching staff is if we had how they do those team manager games in college, if we had an assistant coach squad game, the Memphis Grizzlies would fuck up every single other assistant coaching staff. They got Jerry Stackhouse and Greg Buckner and Vitaly Potapenko. I would not want to play that team.
And
I'm not trying to crap on him as coach. It's Jerry Stackhouse did good in the G League affiliate with Toronto. Potapenko's been coach and assistant coach for a pretty good while. Greg Buckner the same. It's just I found it really odd. It's just a whole new turnover for their coaching staff because I guess JB Bickerstaff felt like he needed a little bit more help, on that end because he can't handle it on his own.
But it's just you look at that roster and nobody could have predicted Connolly falling apart because he was he was justifiable paying him $30 million, and all of a sudden, that fell out fast. Gasol, Chandler Parsons, we knew was an albatross deal, but they sort of hoped
they gave up on Davis.
You don't forget they traded a first-round pick just to get Davis. They give up on him for Ivan Rabb.
A first-round pick that's still looming, that the Boston Celtics are still waiting for. You know,
and it's just you know. Okay, we mentioned Kyle Anderson. They got Jared Jackson Jr. You like?
Well, he had that one good summer league game that like popped everybody off, but like I don't know how good he really is going to be. You know, he was the number 3 pick or the number 4 pick?
4.
Yeah, I mean he went high. I mean it's not like one of these things like, oh, he's a sneaky player. You know.
It's just we know they're going to be terrible, but. They have, again, you just sort of get as many young players as you can, hope somebody will do something. Are we missing, do we skip over, besides Detroit, who also have a team?
Well, we didn't talk too deeply about Cleveland. I mentioned them, but I don't feel like we need to revisit that. The Knicks is the one team that we didn't really talk too much about.
Okay, the Knicks in Brooklyn. Brooklyn still being smart. They got a pick for Reed taking his Ed Davis they signed.
I thought they had the best. I honestly thought they had the best offseason because they're building for the future, but they're not. They also improved in the process.
But the thing is, they're doing it, but now you're just adding Ed Davis. You're adding Jared Dudley. You're not getting prospects. You don't have young people. You have Jarrett Allen. You have Karis LeVert and D'Angelo Russell are your sort of 3 young guys.
And you drafted 2 stashes so they didn't hit your cap too fast.
No, Rondé
Karuch.
No, it's Musa is coming over.
Oh, Yanni Musa is coming over. Okay.
Because that's why he fell, because he says, I'm coming over this year, and teams are like, we don't want you to.
Okay.
So that's why Brooklyn was
able
to get him.
And what about Rodion's Karuch, who came a little later than that?
I think he's coming over as well.
That's interesting. I didn't see him at all in summer league, I believe, so I wasn't sure. So, but that's kind of interesting.
But okay, and yes, the Knicks, who everybody, Kevin Knox is now your newest Hall of Fame member. We're going to put his jersey up next to.
Yeah, lost Kyle Quinn. Frank Ntilikina, it's your turn. He's going to have to take that step up. They brought back Trey Burke, which I was a fan of.
Oh yeah, I drafted Mitchell Robinson, who is a smart pick for second round.
He's from my hometown. He played high school in my hometown.
And basically, New York is just taking a flyer on people. Mario Hezonja, great. I think that's a great signing because he showed signs of it's Orlando.
It depends. It depends on what you think is great. A
1-year deal, really no strings.
But is he good? I mean, I understand what you're saying. The Orlando got the stink on him, but I don't know if he's even good. Orlando did not have the worst offseason ever. They were able to get rid of Biyombo and they re-signed Aaron Gordon. That's actually a win-win.
But let's just quickly look at the Knicks. You got Hezonja. Why not just throw a year? You're not gonna compete this year, so let's throw him out for a year. Maybe he does something. Let's get. They signed Alonzo Trier.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe was a 2-way deal, or they picked him up. Okay,
yeah, all the Arizona guys all got 2 ways because they didn't get drafted after Ayton.
Yeah, and they got Noah Vonleh too.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's just get a couple young people. If somebody kicks off, that's good. Because you got bloated contracts, Courtney Lee, Hardaway, Joakim Noah. So let's get some young players, and maybe that's something. Orlando, you had said,
Well, they were able to unload Biyombo, which was I think priority number 1 for.
Yeah, but they picked up Mozgov, who was equally as useless.
Well, yeah, but Mozgov you might actually be able to play a little bit. That's the difference.
No, Biyombo is an upgrade over Mozgov. You got Jarrell Martin in a salary cap dump. You got Bamba, who
didn't understand it. Didn't understand it.
People love him. I like
Mo Bamba. I just don't like him. I don't like his fit in Orlando.
Where are you putting him with Jonathan Isaac and Evan Fournier? Who's shooting the ball? And Aaron Gordon. They got Jerian Grant and.
Yeah, Jerian Grant is a lost cause. I mean, what did you think of Jeremy Grant being re-signed? Because that was the first sign in Oklahoma City, okay, Carmelo's on the way out because if you keep him, your luxury tax bill triples.
Well, they knew that he was going to be cut or...
yeah, but the Jeremy Grant re-signing right after they signed Paul George was a dead giveaway, which made it obvious that Jeremy Grant was highly valued by the Thunder. Do you think he was a valuable keep?
No.
No? Okay.
I don't think he's that great.
But, I mean, sometimes these people, they get in a foxhole. We saw this with Ian Mahimi, where they just kind of convince themselves, oh, yeah, this is the guy. This is the guy that's going to keep us valuable. I kind of felt that way with Robert Covington in Philadelphia. Like, I thought, like, he was overpaid because he was in the system, and they felt like, okay, we need to overpay to keep him here.
Well, he was overpaid because, he was the only small forward on that team because they kept drafting.
Exactly. His leverage was raised despite the quality of his actual play.
Also, could we just say about the process, Nerlens Noel and Jahlil Okafor, not really good.
No, I mean, I know you're not on the Hinkie bandwagon. We all know this. This is very well documented. But yeah, there are a lot of hits to the process. I think it's being overglorified. I think
you can't then just rebrand the process as of, okay, this is what we have to do to be a franchise. It's just Embiid. Now we'll call him the process, and therefore.
So when they have the 30 for 30 on Sam Hinkie in about 5 years, when Philadelphia wins a title, are you going to be the the contrarian that says, "Oh, this was a terrible idea"?
The idea of picking up all these, they're going to be in salary cap, they're going to be in luxury tax in a couple of years because you've maxed out on Embiid, you're going to have to max out Simmons.
Yes.
What are you going to do with Fultz? You got Saric. You can't pay them both.
You missed out on Tatum. So there's a few of them where they could have gotten better than they didn't,
Yeah, so again, now you have 3 first-round picks every year. Okay, they have 2-3 picks next year. What are they going to do with the top pick? Who can they possibly, what position is open that they can get?
Yeah.
It's like the Celtics. Oh, well, the Celtics could have a top 5 pick. That's good. Who can you possibly draft that's going to do anything?
Well, that's the thing about the process. If it was totally maxed out, what it would have been is kind of like what the Thunder did when they purposely tanked the Sonics, is that if you're going to be really bad and you're going to have the highest pick you could possibly attain, you need to get the best player possible every single time. And the true answer with Philadelphia, even the Fultz move, which was a Brian Colangelo pick, that was not a good move. Maybe I'm being really harsh on Fultz, but I'm watching Jason Tatum playing Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals and beasting. What's Markelle Fultz doing? They made good on Simmons. They made good on Embiid. Noel, like you said, didn't work out. Michael Carter-Williams did not work out. There were plenty of late picks in the first round of the 2013 draft that could have worked out better than them. And then did I mention Okafor? Okafor did not work out.
So what are you doing with all these picks? You have to cash them in, and they haven't done it yet. So, okay, you got J.J. Redick. That's cool. Who's your backup shooting guard you're grooming?
Yeah, but the thing is, with those later picks, if you're going to keep them, because they're low-value contract type of picks, and you can...
They're low value, but they have 8 of them every year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got to open up the spots. But say you do keep them, and you release the veterans, because you need low value so that you can afford the max guys.
You need the veteran leadership. That's why you have Amir Johnson, who's still there.
Exactly.
So it's one of those... And then you try to sign Nemanja Bjelica. So it's one of those... You're there, but you're really not there.
But because of LeBron's exodus, is it enough to get past Boston? I hate to even say get past Boston because Boston ain't won nothing yet. But
you got to get past Boston, and once you get past Boston, you have Toronto, who I think Toronto right now is the king of they're on the top. Only because of the experience.
I respectfully disagree. I think the Celtics are clearly better than Toronto, like by a mile.
But they don't have with Gordon coming back, you don't have the unity yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think right now on paper, I would give it to Toronto based upon you added Kawhi.
Yeah,
who's going to lock down.
On paper, when you look at it, Kawhi went from the West to the East, LeBron went from the East to the West. So you would say, then the East is a wash. Is the East worse now with LeBron gone, or? I mean, there's more complexity to that. Teams do different things to make themselves better and worse. Do you feel like the East is worse or better than they were before last year?
Oh, no, the East is worse because we've mentioned all the teams that are tanking to rebuild. The Knicks, the Brooklyn, Atlanta, we have Chicago, we have Orlando, we have...
They're building to get better. But some of them are on different paths, but they're clearly not there. Like they're not where Philly is now, where they've kind of like hit the max point.
Everything is cyclical.
Yes.
Everybody has a window. Houston's is going to shut real soon. The Clippers are trying to flip as fast as they can to become young. San Antonio's watching the window expire over them.
Did the West get worse? Let's flip it over. Did the West get worse?
No, the West just got LeBron, who you think will be a 50-win team.
I think so. I think that LeBron alone can do it.
But who's going to lose? This is my question to everybody. Who is going to lose? Who's going down? Who's falling out of the playoffs?
Who's falling out of the playoffs? The Pelicans will. The Pelicans are not good enough to make the playoffs in the West right now. And then we're on the AD watch after that.
So you think...
I'm going to have to bite the bullet there.
Okay.
I think Denver can sneak in. I think Utah is okay. I think Portland's on shaky ground. I think Oklahoma City. I even think the Timberwolves are okay. I am very worried about the fact that Jimmy Butler did not accept an extension.
Well, that's because they're a train wreck, and we've.
So what I'm saying is that they got one more year, to make it work, which is not what Tom Thibodeau wants to hear. But no, the Rockets and the Warriors are the two best teams in the West. And then I think Oklahoma City is the third best team in the West. Then you got the Lakers. Then you got
by default
the Jazz. Then you got Minnesota. It's going to be weird watching LeBron have to fight his way up. Like some people thought LeBron was going to be in that position when he went back to Cleveland, but the truth is they already had Kyrie Irving there, and then they brought in Kevin Love. That team was ready to win right away.
Oh yeah, you had Kyrie Irving and a number 1 pick, which you flipped for a star.
This version is very interesting and very wingy, but it's not. I just don't know. The truth with LeBron going to the Lakers, he will definitely make them better. He will make them be on that level because he demands greatness. But can he make them that kind of team?
You're the one that thinks he'll be 50 wins. You're the crazy one.
All right. Well, let's just keep being crazy, and we'll be back for another show really soon. On behalf of Adam Murray, this is Andrew Riche. Take care again. Later.